So we're going to be learning the basics of Python. I'm going to try and have this follow along as much as I can with the articles on the Python basics. I'm going to cover the variables, built-in functions, like print, some math, basic math, and functions. So let's get into it. So variables in Python are, you're never going to not use a variable. They're just, you're going to need them no matter what. This is like the very basic starting blocks of programming. And a variable is just a container for data. Like think if you had a box in your room and you wanted to keep a specific item in it and only that item or items related, you'd put it in a variable or in that box. So a variable can be x is equal to, and since this is a word, we're going to put quotations around it. You can do that later. We're going to say Jacob. It's my name. You can also have a variable that says xf. Can't have two variables have the same name, and otherwise it'll rewrite the previous variable. I'll show you that in a second. But so let's say we have xf equals 45. So very simple. That's how you create a variable. Okay, so now that we have our two variables made, this is as simple as it gets. We want to print these out to the terminal, and print is a built-in Python function where you pretty much just output whatever kind of data you want. So you say print, and it's surrounded by parentheses. Any function in Python, this is how you're going to be able to tell if something's a function or not, and it's if it has these parentheses at the end. Then it'll do. So say print x, and then run. So you see on here, so Jacob. We print xf, we'll print 45. But like I said earlier about the naming conventions, and you can't name two variables the same thing. Let's see what happens if xf is equal to Jacob and xf is equal to 45. So as you can see, it still comes out to 45. That is because when you're saying this, it's saying, okay, fx is equal to Jacob and xf is equal to Jacob. But after that, you're saying xf is equal to 45. So it says, okay, well, forget Jacob. It's going to be 45. Okay, so now we're going to cover some math basics, and we're going to use that built-in print function that we just talked about. So let's start with that. Print, and then just simple math. 2 plus 2. Let's see, what do we get? 4. What about 2 times 2? And to use times, you got to use the asterisks. Syntax for times. And 2. Let's say we want to divide. Use that little slash. Ooh. Notice this. Notice how it has this the decimal in there. I won't get into that right now, but it'll be important later on. Just keep that in the back of your head. Just remember that it comes out different than the others. So it's still 1, right? But if we do 2 times 2, watch how it just comes out to 4 and not 4.0. Right there, see? It's something you'll learn later on, and just cool to keep in the back of your head. Okay, now for functions. So a function is basically just a set of instructions. And so anytime your computer's reading this code, right, it's going to go and it's going to say x is equal to 5. It's going to read that first, and it's going to say print x. It's going to read that. But what if you have to do that a bunch of times, where there's just something you have to repeat, but you don't want to keep rewriting out the code? Well, that's where a function comes in. So to create a function, you start with define, and then the name of your function. You can have it be named whatever you want, and we're going to call this test func. So after that, you have parentheses and a colon. So inside these parentheses is where you would put something called parameters, and that's if you have something that you have to give to your function to have it complete the instructions. That's where you would put it, is in here. I'll get more to that later. It's gonna confuse you a little in the beginning, but you gotta start somewhere. Simple. So say test function, and we're just going to say return print, and then put your name there. So, press run. Oh no, nothing happened. Why is that? So you can't just put the function. That's like, the function's there, the computer knows it's there, but it doesn't know when to use the function now. It just knows the function's there. So to use a function, it's called calling a function. So under this function, we'll put it right here so you know it's the way. And as you can tell, it's not indented, so it's not in the function. So we're going to call the function by saying the name of the function and the parentheses. So we'll say test func. And now try writing code again. Voila. There you go. That's how you use a function.